So, Mr. Washington, could you tell me who you are and where you're from, a little bit about your background?
Okay, be glad to, Dave. My name is Wes Washington, and as of today, I'm 81 years old.
I'm sorry?
I said as of today, or as of March 12th. As of March 12th of this month, I was 81.
81?
81.
Wow. You
And
don't
also-
look as if you're 81 years old.
Well, I can appreciate that comment, and I'm sure that there are others of the same age, may even look younger than I am, or much older. And I think it largely depends on one's commitment to certain principles. In my estimation, there's certain principles, and of course, they have biblical placement also, and of course with metaphysics. And by inculcating those principles, it provides longevity one way or the other. Now that's my estimation.
So, and you said it's based on biblical?
Yeah, biblical principles.
Like what, for example?
Well, I was just listening a few moments ago before I came over here, not even thinking that our conversation would, be bent in this direction. But in Genesis, and Alexander Scorby, who's an English speaker, was narrating the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation.
Wow.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful accent. And he was saying with Moses lived to be 850 years old. Prior to that, Enoch was 969, and from 969, it gradually declined. 800, 700, 500, etc., etc. And that all was a result of man's thinking. The principle that he really incarnated or incorporated into his consciousness that allowed that age span to extend like that.
Explain that for me a little bit more, please, because I'm interested in that.
Okay. In the beginning, man was told to be faithful, willing, and obedient, and to adhere to the divine law in the Garden of Eden, and only to allow his thinking to be that of the divine, because within the divine there are no segments of time. Within the divine, there are no segments of time.
Wow.
Therefore, as long as man thought that way and ate from the tree of life, in my estimation, the tree of life certainly is available somewhere, and in my thinking, the tree of life is hid within man.
The tree of life is within man.
The tree of life is already within us. The tree of life. But what we have really allowed ourselves to be detoured into the area of sense perception.
It's interesting you say sin perception.
Of sense. Sense. By that I mean lowering your consciousness to operate merely on the level of the five senses, which is geared to the external world. It's geared to the external world of seeing, of hearing, touching, taste, and feeling, which allow you to contact the external world. And man have allowed himself to be removed from that state of consciousness of divine mind, of operating on what we call the sense level of consciousness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the divine laws that you talk about, they are laws that anyone can follow?
Absolutely. In my estimation.
Are they complicated laws then?
No, very simple. They are so simple, in my thinking, we miss them because they're already here within us.
Are you saying that the tree of life is within each of us?
And the tree of life is within, let me put it this way. The tree of life is available to each one of us. Each one of us. And it's already inherent within our makeup from a divine perspective, because we are made in the beginning. That is our divine design, our original heavenly blueprint. Because I think even Plato indicated everything comes from the thought realm. And he was agreeing with what is already in scriptures. Everything comes from the thought realm. Anything that is manifested here came from a thought out of the infinite thought realm. That is to say, when we were originally made in the image and likeness of God, we were the embodiment of all that God is. We have moved away from that.
And there lies the rub.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
then you're no longer talking about religion, because religion, in my estimation, personified God, and the minute you do that, you make him less. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, you make him less. Not only do you make him less, we make ourselves less. Not only do we make him less, but we make ourselves less, and by making ourselves less, we make him less.
You're going to have to, okay, so from what you're saying, we really ought not to define God in human terms.
No. And if you do, you use that only as a means of an indication of the divine. Say, for instance, and when I say that, man in his human state certainly is indicative of what God is in a certain sense. Because I think Jesus, in some of his parables, he used man as an analogy to try to set forth what God is. Because man, in that state of human existence and thinking on the human level, had to have parables that at least would indicate somewhat of what God was. And so Jesus approached, and I think you even indicated that in our conversation a while back, that you use that merely as an analogy or as a parable.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the aging process is actually something that we created from a lack of knowledge, you think?
From a lack of knowledge, not only from a lack of knowledge, but from our state of being where we operate from. The more Jesus made, it wasn't Jesus, but I think it was Paul, no, it was John. He made this statement: do not attach or become enslaved in terms of your feelings and of your actions to what is in the external world, because all that is in the time continuum. And when you do that, your conscience is then caught in time existence.
And really, are you saying the divine is timeless?
It's timeless. The divine is timeless. But when you identify thereunto with all that you can see, hear, smell, taste, and feel, that is within a time zone or continuum. We must not do that. And the more you can identify yourself with the Most High, which is timeless, you take on the nature or the means of that.
Really?
Absolutely, absolutely. You take on the means of that. Let me see if I can say it in a better way. I read a statement not long ago. It says, only identify yourself with what is the most powerful. Only identify yourself with what is the most powerful. And to me, the most powerful is God or the divine, because that's where the all is.
Okay, I want you to define the divine, because I think that is where a lot of us get ourselves in trouble.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We tend to put him in a box, encapsulate him or her or it, and that's where we get ourselves in trouble, don't you think?
I agree with that. Yes. Can the divine be divined or defined? Difficult to do.
Yeah, okay.
Difficult to do. But let me attempt to say something that will somewhat indicate it. But to try to define the divine, which is beyond definitions.
Okay.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beyond definitions, but let me say something that would somewhat indicate it. Yeah, because the divine is timeless, and we're using words, right now in our conversation and in our making attempt to define something. These are words, and these words are also the extension of time. The words that we're using right now. That's why it is difficult. That's why it is difficult when you try to talk about the divine or God and using words. But the divine is that which is timeless,
Infinite?
infinite, without
Constraints of any kind?
without constraints of any time or any kind. Yes. Let's see if there's any.
Unfathomable? I mean,
Yep.
you know?
Mm-hmm. That is the divine, or these are words to try to indicate the divine.
I see.
Mhm.
But the words themselves are limited,
Very limited.
so
Very
we
limited.
really can't use the words to
Mhm.
explain something that is
I agree.
timeless.
That's timeless. No.
Hmm. So what do we do then when we tell ourselves we're trying to have religious things to define God? Isn't that a lesson in futility?
It is to an extent, and yet I think it's a suitable. Attempt. One of the great teachers of India, Yoga, and I don't know whether you've ever read Yogananda's book.
No, I haven't.
Okay, Yogananda.
And who
Yoga, I was up, and I think I came close to the location where he only had 4 or 5 students at a time, and he taught meditation. And what he would do, he would have them to read a scripture, one scripture, and then he would tell them to meditate on that one scripture for a whole hour. That was wisdom.
Now, what exactly is a yogi?
A yogi is one who is aspiring to a higher state of consciousness. And that he put himself under a master teacher
Oh.
that can assist him process.